All right, we're back here on SportsLine. Phone lines open tonight, 737-7767. We could talk some Titans. We could talk their coaching, GM hires, where you want to see them go from here. Also, my points from the last couple days about the direction of the city or anything else you want to talk about sports related here. That's what we're for. It's called SportsLine. 737-7767 is the number. Jay's been waiting for a while. Jay, good evening. You start us off tonight here on SportsLine.
Good evening, Steve. First of all, I just want to congratulate Nashville on a job well done on that NHL All-Star. That was unbelievable. But my point is, I'm a Vandy fan, and Steve, I am tired of Stallings. It is time for a change. I mean, I remember as a kid going, and Fogler was the coach, and that place would just be absolutely electric. Now it's stale, it's boring, and the players. I mean, we could do more with a younger, energetic coach, I think, with some fire, and I just wonder what your thoughts were, and I'll hang up. Thank you.
Hey, Jay, hold on for a second. I want to ask you something, then I'll give you more in-depth thoughts.
Go ahead.
How much do you think the, I guess, frustration or the lack of a fan turnout is about Stallings right now, and how much of it is sort of the day and age we live in? And the reason I ask that is because there are a lot of schools around the country that are struggling attendance-wise right now. And when you look at Vanderbilt in Nashville, all the things we're talking about, the NHL All-Star Weekend here was a huge success. There's entertainment galore around here. There's professional sports now in Nashville that weren't there during the Fogler days and things like that. How much do you think is it that Vanderbilt has maybe slipped on the entertainment scale to a lot of people? And how much do you think it's frustration that they're not performing better under Kevin Stallings?
I think a lot of it is frustration. I mean, we went to the LSU game, the first SEC game of the year, and it should have been packed more than it was. And, the crowd was just boring. I mean, here we got LSU in for the first SEC game, and it's just boring. And I just think we need a new regime. I think, it's time for a change. And plus, personally, I don't like the guy. I mean, I think he's not a very nice person, in my opinion. But I just wonder what your thoughts were and if you're hearing the same thing. And I'll hang up and listen. I appreciate it.
Okay, Jay, we appreciate the call as always. I think it's interesting. I'm not sure the attendance is a frustration, and I could be wrong. Vanderbilt fans probably know better than me. I'm not sure it's such a frustration with the program or Stallings as much as it is now that Vanderbilt once was sort of the number one winter game in town in this city, and going to Memorial and seeing Memorial Magic was incredible. Well, now there's a lot of other kind of magical events and cooler venues in the city, and I think that's taken away some of it as well. I've been a pretty big Kevin Stallings supporter because I actually like the guy, I get along with him well, and I think he's a very good coach in the sense of what I think we all sort of hope college coaches are. I think he makes sure his kids go to class. He makes them better men before he leaves. And generally, I think he's a pretty good basketball coach. I know a ton of people who think he's a very good offensive basketball coach in particular around the country. That being said, the recent lack of success around there is troubling. And for that staff, they've had a couple things go haywire, and their statement was sort of, look, we've got this group coming in starting last year, moving into this year and beyond, that's going to be a young nucleus that we're going to build around, and we're going to be good. We're going to be right there. We're going to be a very good team. And I think that's what sort of held people off in all of the criticism or frustration of the program. It was okay, well, maybe this is just a downtrend, and they're saying they're just about to take off and be very good. And you saw a little bit of that last year where they got hot at the end of the season, and you thought, okay, all these guys coming back, that team's going to be pretty good. And this year you start in the top 15, 20 in most polls, and then right out of the gate there's struggles. And frankly, ever since they played in Maui, where they played pretty well and took Kansas to the wire in the championship game out there, this team hasn't looked that good ever since then. And that's a real issue. And right now, here we are, the first couple days of February, Vanderbilt's got to win games. first and foremost, they just have to pile up wins because they need to get in that 20-21 win range to even be considered for the NCAA tournament. But the other thing they've got to do is they've got to start beating some teams that matter. You know, the win over Florida last week was a good start for this team. Florida's a top 25 RPI team. That was the first one Vanderbilt had gotten all season long. That's a start. But they've got to continue to knock off some of those teams. They're going to have to beat a Kentucky. They're going to have to beat Texas A&M this week or something like that. They need some quality wins on the schedule, and they can't afford many more losses. So it's a tough spot here, and what do you do if this team doesn't make the tournament? You're talking about a team that had Sweet 16, maybe farther preseason expectations. Everybody thought this team was a lock for the tournament. And the question was just how far could they go? If they now don't make the tournament, what do? I don't know. I think it would be hard to justify keeping Kevin Stallings in that case, because this was the year they were pointing to. If you were upset about the last few years of Vanderbilt, and a lot of people were, this was the year. This was the year that was going to make it all better, because this was going to be a good team, and it was going to be a start of something with kind of the core nucleus for them. And now here we are, very much with Vanderbilt on the bubble here at the beginning of February. And that's got to be troubling if you're a Vanderbilt fan. Good evening, David. You're next up here on SportsLine.
Okay, the Titans have a lot of money, so they can get some pretty good free agents. And I just heard that Eric Berry, they from Kansas City, he's on the free agent market. And I heard Josh Norman, he's going to be there after the Super Bowl. I mean, you can fill those two gaps in real quick. And one more like Von Miller, maybe, he's a free agent. I mean, if we could get those players in here, that defense would be top of the line. And I just want to know what you think about it.
Well, Dave, if they could get those three guys in here, this defense would be stout. There's no question about that. I think the toughest obstacle there is you're talking about Pro Bowlers and all pros, and it's hard for me to imagine any of their teams are going to willingly let those guys walk. Eric Berry graded out as the #1 safety in the National Football League this year. You think Kansas City just wants to watch him walk away on them right now? I think they're going to do everything possible to keep Eric Berry in Kansas City. I think Carolina is going to do everything possible to keep Josh Norman. Von Miller is going to stay in Denver. That's the hard part here. Is, I mean, if you're a true superstar free agent, you get paid where you're playing now because they don't want you to go. And so Tennessee's going to have to identify some of those guys that don't get paid and are sitting there on the market and what the value is for them. I think any of those guys, if they come available and Tennessee can go after them, that is a great move. I just don't think they're going to come available and give the Titans that option in all likelihood. Let's go to Barry. Barry, good evening. You're next up here.
I just got to listen to the Tennessee and Kentucky game. It was great. I mean, that was a great game to come from 20 down to come up.
Sure was, and you've got to give Tennessee a lot of credit, Barry, because this is a team that last week in games at Alabama led by 15 in the second half, and then a game at TCU led by 14 in the second half, and crumbled down the stretch. They were unable to finish games off when they had a lead last week, but yet Rick Barnes got this team to not quit, come out tonight. They struggled in the first half. They were down 20, as you mentioned. And this time in the second half, they turned the tables. They were the team that finished tonight in the second half, and that's a big win. I don't think this is the vintage Calipari Kentucky team by any means, but it's still Kentucky. There's a bunch of McDonald's All-Americans on that team. There's a lot of talent there. And for Tennessee to come back the way they did and win that game at home, I think that says a lot for what Rick Barnes is doing, the command he has of his team and their psyche after the week that they went through, and just a big win moving forward for them.
Yeah, it was.
Barry, we appreciate the call tonight. We're going to take a break here on SportsLine. Phone lines are still open. 737-7767 is the number. When we come back, we're going to talk with one of the Titans' Pro Bowlers, John Burton's interview from last week while Delaney Walker was in Hawaii. We'll check in with him about his Pro Bowl selection and some other things around the Titans. That's straight ahead here on SportsLine.